Straight Life by Art and Lori Pepper. This is episode 8 of Straight Life. And this is Art talking. When I was at San Pedro High, because I was a musician and played for the dances, I began to get popular. All the chicks dug me and would vie for me, smile at me and flirt with me. The guys came around too and listened to me play, and they wanted me to hang out with them. And one day this guy Chris came to me, him and a couple of other guys, and they wanted me to join the club they belonged to. It was an honor. In San Pedro at this time, there were a lot of different gangs. Chris had a gang called the Cobras. I thought I might be happier if I was with other people more. And I also wanted to join because I figured it would impress my dad. The Cobras had a reputation. I joined and got a jacket with a cobra on the back. We used to go to the Torrance Civic Auditorium to the dances. And Chris, who was the biggest guy in our group, would find the biggest guy on the floor who was a member of some other gang. Wait until the guy was dancing and then go up to him and tap him on the shoulder to cut in on his date. The guy would say, "Hey, there's no cutting in here. Get lost." Chris would just hit him on the shoulder again, grab him, turn him around and Sunday him, punch him. And when he'd hit a guy, he was so good that no matter how big they were, they'd go down. The guy would go down. And everybody would get all excited, and Chris would tell him, "We're the Cobras. We'll meet you at so-and-so." There was a street where some city or county lines met. Wilmington, San Pedro, Torrance, I'm not sure. The street was right in the middle of these lines, and there was some idea that this was the safest place to fight, which was ridiculous, because the police would bust you anywhere. They didn't care about lines. But this was where we go. It was a country-type place, and at night it was deserted. There was an old lot with a stand where they sold vegetables in the daytime. I was never afraid of a one-on-one situation, boxing or fist-fighting. But when you get into gangs, then you have to worry if someone's got a knife or a gun or a piece of steel. We'd drive to this lot. The cars would stop, and out would jump Chris and all the guys and the guys from the other gang, and they'd meet and start fighting. I would have to get out and fight. We'd fight until one side or the other won. Or if we were losing, we'd jump in our cars and split. And afterwards, we'd go to this drive-in and eat and talk about the fight. They'd laugh and everything. That was like great fun. We'd strut around the school the next day. And we drank Burgermeister Ale and Gilby's gin to get the nerve to go into these things. That was the trip, and it wasn't me. Finally, during one of these fights, some guys brought out a chain, and a couple of knives came out, and a couple of guys got cut real bad. And I started thinking, wow, I don't want this. I thought, if this is being part of society, that was society for me. Now, if that was what I had to do to belong, I didn't want any part of it. So that was when I started getting with Johnny Martisia and Jimmy Henson, musicians I'd met playing at dances. They were in their early 20s, and they had other friends whose thing was playing music. And it was a good thing. I got along better with them. I withdrew from the guys in the school, and the gang ranked me. They thought I was better than them, that I was stuck up, that I had a big head. And every now and then I'd get challenged by one of these guys and have to have a fist fight. But it was better than being part of that gang. I quit the Cobras, and that's when I really got into the music thing. In 1974 or 75, I was lucky enough to find and interview Johnny Martisia. So here's his interview, and he talks about the music and musicians of that time. Okay. Johnny Martisia. I was about 18. I was playing with a little dance band, high school dances, and I kept hearing all these, stinking saxophone players out of tune, honking sounds. And I went to this rehearsal and I heard somebody warming up, playing scales and so on. And my God, I said, what is that? It was such a gorgeous sound. It was like a real artist. And I looked and it was this little kid. He looked about 14 years old. It was Art. I couldn't believe it. I said, who the hell are you? Art and I got real friendly. He'd come over to my house. I played him some records and I played some jazz myself. Not well. He said, how do you do that? How do you jam? That was the word, jam. I explained about chord progressions and I said, you make up your own melody. And boy, he got it right away. He's got great ears. He'd hear something once and he'd have it. He must have had a good teacher too. Art knew all his scales, and that's very important. I had started out playing cowboy songs, Home on the Range, things like that. Then somehow I happened to hear some Django Reinhardt. That was really incredible. I still have some of the record 78s. I listened to them over and over and tried to copy all his licks. I started taking Downbeat magazine, listening to all the big bands and going with the other guys to hear people like Coleman Hawkins and T-Bone Walker when they were in town. We'd get friendly with them and they'd tell us, hey man, we're going to go down to this after hours place and jam. Do you want to come? Of course we'd go. We'd stay all night. Well, Art started going out with us, going to bars to play. We didn't even have a car. We'd walk sometimes for miles. Zoot Sims was one of the guys then. We used to call him Jackie Sims. Art was a very clean-looking, Italian-looking kid. Normal height, good weight, very, very healthy, good-looking. He was a very exciting kid, kind of naughty, a raise hell kind of kid. One night we went to a club to jam, and all of a sudden I turn around, and here's Art having an argument with an old guy. Well, maybe he wasn't so old. He seemed old to us. The next thing I know, Art's rolling on the floor, fighting with this guy. Art was a very energetic kid, always jumping around. And here's Art again. When I was 9 or 10, I liked the big bands that I heard on the radio. Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Artie Shaw, Benny Goodman, Charlie Barnett. After I got my clarinet, I started buying their records. It became my goal to play Artie Shaw's part on Concerto for Clarinet. Finally, after I'd been playing for a few years, Mr. Parry bought me the sheet music. I practiced all alone and with the record, and I was finally able to play it. It was a difficult piece. Here's a little tiny taste of Artie Shaw, Art's hero. Johnny Martisio was a guitar player. Jimmy Henson played trombone. I got together with them at their houses to play. Johnny would strum the guitar. He told me, these are the chords to the blues, which all jazz emanates from. This is black music from Africa, from the slave ships that came to America. I liked what I heard, but I didn't know what chords were. Chords are the foundation for all music, the foundation jazz players improvise on. I said, what shall I do? He said, listen to the sounds I'm making on my guitar and play what you feel. He strummed the blues and I played things that felt nice and seemed to fit. We played, and slowly I began to play sounds that made sense and didn't clash with what he was doing. I asked him if he thought that I might have the right to play jazz. He said, you're very fortunate. You have a gift. I wanted to become the greatest player in the world. I wanted to become a jazz musician. I ran around with Johnny and his friends. We'd go into bars and ask if we could play. Sometimes they said yes. I was 14 or 15. These guys took me down to Central Avenue, the black nightclub district, and asked if we could sit in. The people there were very encouraging. I played clarinet in the school band in San Pedro, but when I got to Fremont High, I stopped playing in school and started working more jobs. I had been playing alto saxophone since I was 12, and now I got a job playing with a trio at Victor McLaughlin's. I began going by myself to Central Avenue. I met a lot of musicians there. I ran into a bass player, Joe Mondragon, who said he was going with Gus Arnheim in San Diego. He asked me if I wanted to go with the band. I was still going to school, but I wasn't going regular. I went out to San Diego and stayed for about 3 months. And to close, here's a brief cut of Gus Arnheim's band from that period.